you've got spare time, create something, let that passive income in and invest that. And then you're always going to have some money behind you.
Hello everybody and welcome to Seven Figures, a podcast where we talk about entrepreneurship, financial literacy, generating wealth and how to build a seven-figure business from people who've actually done it. Today we have an esteemed guest today. We have my friend Mark Tilbury, who dropped out of school at a very young age and managed to turn his passion for radio-controlled models into a multi-million business. And only recently, how I discovered him, he's become a TikTok sensation, giving young people advice about entrepreneurship, business, and finance. He's come all the way from Kent down today to give us some gems. My bro, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to be here today.
No, the pleasure's all mine, you know what I mean? And just to give the audience a bit of background and plug you a little bit. So Mark is a successful businessman who actually went onto TikTok. We're going to find out why. And he kind of caught my attention just because of the insight he was given. The first video I saw of him, he was talking about designer clothes, and he was saying designer clothes and companies, they don't market to rich people, they market to people who want to be rich. And I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. So I hit him up and we made it happen. So Mark, tell me, before we get to now, where does it all begin? And when I say where does it all begin, I really want to know about your family background, like, you know, your introduction to entrepreneurship via your parents and at an early age. What was that like?
Well, really, my early age was good parents that go to work, worked hard. They're not entrepreneurs, absolutely not. And I suppose really it was just a want to sell things. I just wanted to create more pocket money for myself. So, you know, right from early age, it was washing cars and earning money, going fishing and selling the fish around the trade, all around my house in the state that we were on. So, you know, there was always the entrepreneurial spirit. Even though the schools were trying to beat it out of me, I was coming back with a vengeance.
So tell me about this, because the fish selling story is interesting, because it was the first time you kind of innovated in business, because you said you went out and tried to sell 10 fish for $5, and then what happened?
Well, actually, we were selling 10 fish. Well, first of all, we caught so many fish. When we used to go,
Who caught the fish?
Me and my mate.
Oh.
We literally went to Dover on the paper train in the morning because we weren't allowed to go night fishing, and we'd cast off, and you could catch 4 to 6 of these mackerel every time you cast it. It was brilliant. I don't know if you can still do it now or not. But we brought home probably 200 fish, something like that. We put them in an ice bucket so they all kept fresh, and then people were barbecuing on Saturday evening. So we'd go around the estate selling 10 fish for £1. And that business was useless. So we had to restructure the business.
That's a good bargain though, 10 fish for £1.
Yeah, you think so, but we restructured it, 5 for £1, and it was brilliant. It really went well. People wanted 5 to barbecue. They didn't want to stick them in the freezer. They were going to use them there and then. And it worked really, really well. We sold double the amount of fish and for double the amount of money. It was fantastic.
So wait, so this is too early entrepreneurship. I mean, it seems like it was born within you. Like, this is crazy. So, well, first of all, who taught you how to fish? And how did you see the fishing as an opportunity? Like, it was just
well, the opportunity. I enjoyed fishing. I taught myself to fish. We just used to go and do that, me and my mate, and that was just something we did. Selling the fish was more a case of we enjoyed catching so many, and what were we going to do with them? Throw them back? You know, you couldn't keep 200 fish, so you got to sell them. You created a product. You've got to then feed a market with it or find a market, and that's what we did. It was happy days.
So how old are you at this time?
I was probably about 10 or 11 years old.
11?
Yeah, I wasn't allowed night fishing, you see, so it was definitely around that area. But so we used to catch a paper train from Sittingbourne, which doesn't run anymore, but back in the day you catch that about 4 o'clock. No ticket office open,
yeah.
So that was really handy. So, you know, we kept our business costs under control. And of course on the way back, sorry mate, I've lost my ticket. You know, I had it small.
Yeah, I don't know where I know.
It's well good, isn't it? So yeah, it worked really well. Low business costs. And
good turn. Good. So what did you buy with the money when you made?
Well, mostly for me it was modelling stuff, because I was into the radio control models even at a young age, and everything was about funding my hobby and obviously trying to build up a little bit of money, and that's what we did. So it was a lot of fun.
Cool, man. So you had this entrepreneurial spirit, and you go into school. You said it's not cultivated, but you gravitated towards carpentry as a subject, right? You said you had a good woodwork teacher.
Yeah, I did. Mr. West, he was. He was a very good teacher, and I think he could see a little bit in me, as opposed to the other teachers that were like, he's just the class clown. You know.
Was that you?
Well, a little bit, yeah. But you know, you could have done better. Is basically what all of my reports would say, and perhaps I could. But the problem is, things like history at the time didn't interest me. I'm quite interested in it now, but at the time it was of no interest because I couldn't see how I could use that to further my career, as it were. And I just ended up wanting to get out of school and follow my own lead, as it were.
So I find it interesting. I think specifically, like I came from an African household. Education is paramount, and I'm sure it is like around the environment you grew up as well.
Yeah.
But you wasn't pressured by your parents to go to school, because I noticed that with your son Curtis as well, who's here on the cameras doing all that stuff. You haven't put that same pressure on him as well. How was that conversation with your parents when you said to them, "I don't want to continue with education at this point"?
I think they were quite acceptant of it. You know, at the time, 16 was a normal sort of age to leave school,
true, yeah.
and because it was, I was going into a trade. I think they were quite happy with that. I actually had I think it's about 3 or 4 jobs lined up because I thought I've got to find something. Because the careers guy said you're only going to go to YTS, a youth training scheme, which was £20 a week. And I thought I'm not doing youth training scheme. So I lined up about 3 or 4 apprenticeships. Took the one I wanted, you know. I was really happy to be working at the place I went to, and the other 3 I gave away to my friends. One of them now runs the business that I gave him the job for as an apprentice. How about that?
That's crazy, yeah.
That's many years down the line.
What business was that one you gave to him?
Herbert's Engineering was the name of the company, and so he runs that now. Refrigeration engineers.
Oh, that's dope, man. It's very rare. That's
Amazing,
So your friend so you give all your friends the other 3 jobs and you stick with the one job. What's the one job that you stuck with?
I stuck with cabinet making and carpentry, and the place I went to work for, I have to say, they used to make a lot of work for Cannon Street, which is not too far from
it's around
here.
the corner, yeah.
And a lot of bank work, you know, really nice desks and staircases. You know, I looked at it, like, this is what I want to be doing. I like the look of this. I could progress through this company. This will be fantastic. So from day one, I wasn't necessarily looking at being on the benches all the time. I was looking to progress up through the company.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I had that little bit of a rub with the foreman.
Oh, okay. So you're gonna talk about that then. If you're saying so, you're working. You started very entrepreneurial. You start working. And then there's a point where you're like, this isn't for me anymore, although you was passionate. Do you want to talk about that then?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. If you can't get the job that you like, or you're not enjoying where you are, then you've got to do something about that, haven't you? I mean, you've got to. Some people say you should do what you enjoy. I always say you should enjoy what you do, which is a little bit different. So, you know, sometimes you can take on a passion and it can all go wrong, and you hate that passion for the rest of your life. But if you enjoy what you do when you're doing it, then that's great, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get out. He was forcing me to make these bins, these wooden bins, and they had a massive contract with, it was Safeways at the time, I think, and
Morrison's now, right?
Well, it was Asda and Walmart. It was that sort of thing, I think, or Safeway. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, there was thousands of these bins, and I confronted him on it. I said, you know, I don't want to be doing this. I want to be making these beautiful staircases. I want to be making these beautiful desks and things. That's what I came here for. And he said, well, we've got a massive contract. You'll be making bins today, and you'll be making bins for the foreseeable future. And that was the point where I said, right, I'm going to have to turn this around. So, you know, no looking back.
So how does turning around look like for you at that point?
Well, at that point, I was working part-time in a model shop. So on my Saturdays, I was selling model goods anyway, which is really where my passion and what I really enjoy doing comes from. And on Sundays, I was teaching people to fly radio control helicopters, which there was a huge demand at the time. In fact, the demand was so huge, I couldn't fit enough people in. And then I used to take the helicopters away and tune them up in the week and bring them back on the following Sunday, so I could earn a bit more in the week. And that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to start a model business, which is another story.
No, let's go into it. Let's go. But I want to stop for a second. So you were working. How many hours were you working to be able to commit to working? Were you working 7 days a week essentially?
I'd say, I was working 7 days a week, but I think the Sundays was a sort of a me time working experience, because I would be at the model flying field anyway, because that's what I like to do on a Sunday. And the fact that it became more and more work, it wasn't really hard work, because a lot of people had better models than I had. It gave me the chance to experience those models as well. So it was quite nice, really.
Did you set up this training thing as a business, or was it already established and you stepped into it, or did you just?
No, it was a just grew as a business, really. So it was quite nice. Yeah.
Oh, so it grew as your own little business. You were like, I'll pay me this much, and I'll teach you how to fly these.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
Oh wow! And how did you promote that?
Well, I didn't really need to promote it too much. I was working in the shops on Saturday afternoons in the model shop, so I'd say to every customer, you do know that I'm a member of this club, and if you come down, I can give you an hour, and I charge X amount for an hour. And when they were there, of course, I'd say, not only can I do this, you know, your model, it could be a bit better if I took it away, and I could make any model fly better. That's without a doubt. So I'll take it away, bring it back next week, and they'll be, oh great, I can fly it now.
Oh,
so it's a good business.
So you were taking business away, not you were making, you were upselling basically.
Yeah, and to be honest, it was making more business for the shop that I was working in, because as soon as they could fly, they would want the next model up, and then the next model up. So it was actually creating a lot of business for that company.
Yeah. So you've got 3 jobs right now. So you're working the full time, you're working at the model shop, and no, that's a lot of jobs. Yeah. And how old were you at that time?
Well, I'm going to add to that. I was flipping cars on the side as
well. Bro, so you're just like a natural hustler.
Yeah, just flipping cars on the side.
Who brought you into flipping cars?
Well, a friend of mine did cars anyway, and it was just a case of, you know, I had a bit of debt because I bought a car and it went wrong, and I borrowed, so you learn this lesson. Then the car goes bang and you've got to repair it, so you go a bit deeper into debt. And it was just one of those moments where you go, you know, I'm $4,000 in debt. I don't earn $4,000 in a year officially with my work. So how am I going to get out of debt? Well, I said, right, this year I'm going to be out of debt at the end of the year. I'm going to work my what's it off, and flipping cars was one of the things that helped with that. And at the end of that year, I had over $4,000 positive in the bank account. So not only did we pay off the debt that looked unpayable at the time, you know, we had a nice big chunk, which is what I always refer to as an emergency fund in most of my videos, because once you've got a chunk of cash behind you, life becomes a lot easier.
Because you can make decisions without that pressure of having to.
That. And when something goes wrong in your life, you can sort it out. You've got the money. You know, washing machine goes wrong. Oh, it's still horrible to have to go and buy one, but you can, can't you? It's not. You're not going, oh, I've got to borrow for that, because you've got that fund there, and you put it all back in there as soon as possible, and it's interest free.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So who taught you the idea of having this emergency fund?
Well, you know, I often look back and I don't really know anyone that specifically taught me this, but I did have a very, very good, what I would call a mentor now, but at the time he was a friend within the model club. You know, he always had a bit of money on his hip, always had the nice car, wife had the nice car, you know, he'd been around, done a few things, and he'd always be dropping me these snippets of information. Now, I don't even think he knew he was doing that. It was just I was very receptive to it. And I mean, he's died now. I get a bit emotional when I have to say that.
Sorry, rest in peace.
Yeah, exactly. And I visit his tree quite often. But you know, he helped so much with what I went on to do, and purely the fact that he was self-employed. You know, he put that onto me. I think that, you know, you can do it. He knew I could do it.
Yeah.
So maybe it takes an entrepreneur to see that sometimes. You know, because you've got to recognise that in yourself. And once you do, there's no stopping you, is there? And I think that's where that came from.
So I totally agree. I think once you have a mentor, it kind of reinforces all the feelings that you're kind of having. You know what I mean? Yeah. Someone like viable proof that this is possible. Yeah,
and particularly when you're at school, and I'm sure you've witnessed this, that, you know, you just get beaten down, you know, like, and even parents to a certain degree, you know, they'll say, you know, you need a good job, you need a good salary, you know, do it like this, and before you know it, you've fallen comfortable into a career. Then you get the house, then you get the wife, then you get the kid, and before you know it, you are sort of trapped, and that's not what I wanted. And I think schools have got to recognise that when someone might be the class clown, for example, you know, actually there's a reason for that, and they should maybe tap them on the head and say, you know, you've got that spirit, you know, you could go off and do your own thing, and you could do quite well. And a lot of people have got that, haven't they?
Yes,
I think it gets beaten out of them a bit by the parents, a lot by the school system.
Yeah, 100%.
And then those that have got it, that go to university, when they come out the other side, you know, they are going into a cushy job sometimes, and that's never going to happen for them, the entrepreneurial thing. They're going to be selling their 5 days a week for their 2 days off at the weekend, and you think, well, that's never going to go anywhere.
Yeah, you kind of limited how much of your potential you can access.
Exactly, yeah.
So at this time, like you're saying, the teachers wouldn't encourage you. You had this mentor, and your parents. What was your relationship like with your parents?
Oh
Were
no,
you
it's
like,
a very good relationship with
Yeah.
my parents. There's nothing wrong there at all. It was just that my dad was very much a 9 to 5
what did he
sort
work
of guy.
as, if you don't mind me asking?
He worked for an electrical company that make electrical connectors.
Also, very just hands-on.
Yeah,
kind of-
he did end up working for me, funnily enough.
Oh, really? Oh,
But,
wow.
I said this to someone earlier that you don't see your dad age. Your dad is your dad, isn't it?
Yeah.
You always look at him.
Yeah,
and
he's always a hit rock.
oh, there, it's dad. He doesn't change. He's solid as a rock. But I saw my dad age over about a 2-year period, maybe even a year period, which is a short period to see someone aging.
Yeah.
And I had to sit down like we are here and have a discussion and say, Dad, what's going on? You look worn out. And he said, well, they've made 2 or 3 guys redundant at work. I'm having to do all their jobs because I can. The guy who runs the business officially isn't. He's off playing golf.
Yeah, because he's yeah.
And he said, it's getting me down. I said, right, well, leave. He said, well, I can't leave. I've got commitments.
Yeah.
I said, well, we'll open another shop. So we opened a shop in Ashford. He ran it until the day he retired.
Wow, that's goals. Okay, we're gonna get to how you got to this point. Cool. So now we've got to this point where you're working all these jobs. You've come out of that, and the entrepreneurial spirit is kind of bubbling in you because this guy has already said to you that, listen, you're gonna be making these wooden bins forever. Yeah. So tell me how we go from there to what's your first venture, and Model Works.
Well, the first venture is a company called Model World, which
Model
is
World.
based
Sorry, why did I
yeah,
say my
that's
bad?
all right. So
Yeah.
it nearly was Model Works, but I actually confided in a friend of mine. Again, even though he's done what I'm going to tell you he did, I'm still a friend with him. I actually saw him last week. He came over for a cup of coffee and we chat about things. But I gave him all my ideas, and this was the guy I was working for part time in the model shop. And I was giving him all these ideas, telling him why this location's great, this is what I'm going to do, there's definitely a market, and I'm learning from you at the moment, I'm going to transfer that and run my own model shop. And he did it. He did it before I had the chance. But it's a good lesson to learn because I wasn't ready to start because I didn't have the backing, I didn't have the credit score to get the loans that I needed. So it was one of those things, I didn't have everything in place to be able to do it.
But wait, let's talk about this then. So I think this is a good point because there's this concept of sharing your ideas with people.
Yeah.
People do it online. You know, people express what it. How do you feel about that now after your experience? How do you feel about sharing your?
I think you're a little bit more caged about ideas until you've got it signed, sealed, and delivered. You don't really say too much about it. And with experience, it's easier to do that, isn't it? When you're young and everything's great and everyone's great and he's giving me a job, he's great, and you don't expect that. And the fact that someone opens exactly the business in exactly the spot that you were going to open and calls it the same name. I mean, the name Model World came from a BBC television series when I was a kid. I still have they used to do albums for all these programs. I still have the album, Model World BBC program. So I know that was my name for it. It's always going to be the name. And he took the idea.
How old were you at this point?
I was probably 19, just turned 19.
As a 19-year-old, what is your mental state? Because for me, that is beef. Like me, I don't know, I'm burning down your shop or something.
Yeah, to me, it nearly knocked me down. It did knock the wind out of me, but I didn't want to give up what I was doing because, everything I was doing was working. It was still related to his shop. So I still worked for him part-time. And that was a good move. I could have just gone, you know what, that's it. But I didn't. I knuckled down. I worked really hard with him and doing all the other things I did. And I think it was about 8 months later, he said, you know what, I've had enough of that shop down at Maytown. It's not doing very well. I'm going to sell it, get rid of it, close it down. I went, well, what do you want for it? And he told me a price. I said, I'll buy it. There and then, the minute he said. And I'm glad I did because he probably would have changed his mind had I left it another day. But the fact I said, no, I'll buy it. And then I just had to put everything in motion to be able to buy that business. And the reason it didn't work is because he didn't have the passion for Model World. He had the passion for the business he was doing, pretty much, but not for that. And it was a different thing. It's a totally different animal. And he put a manager in there and it wasn't going to work from day one, really.
I think that's 2 important lessons in that. The fact that, sometimes we let our emotions get ahead of our logic, but you logically looked at it and was like, okay, this is a setback, but logically I can still leverage the position I'm in.
Yes.
And then the second lesson is that opportunity. The opportunity came and you just like, so how much did he say he was going to sell it for?
I can't give you that information.
Okay, that's fine. That's totally fine.
The only thing, I mean, I talk open finance.
Yeah, that's
and
fine. Yeah.
But what I don't talk about is actual personal.
Yeah.
So, but it was a figure that was more than I could scrape together. Should we put it that way?
Yeah.
And I had to go to the bank and borrow. And the first bank turned me down. Absolutely blank turned me down.
What did you go into the bank with? I want to know. Like,
well, I had to make up a business plan. I mean, how'd you do that?
Yeah,
you've got to make a business plan. You think, well, you know, I know what I want to do. It's all up here. No, you've got to put it down on paper. So we put it all on paper and did projections and everything. And to be honest, I don't think he looked at them. He looked at me and went, "Yeah, you're a youngster. You ain't got a chance. You know, there's no way we're lending you any money." But as fate would have it, rather than moping out, you know, I went out thinking, oh, I am a bit deflated, but, you know, worse things have happened. Walked along the street and there was Barclays Bank, literally next door. I turned the corner, literally next door. And I said, you know, I'm gonna go in there and pretend I got a meeting with someone and just see what I can do. And I blagged the meeting there and then. And he said, well, have you got a business plan? Well, as it happens, put all the business plan down. He read it. A guy called Mr. May, he's not there anymore. And he saw, again, something in me. And he said, you know what, I'm all about helping youngsters that come in and they're prepared to put their life on the line to start a business that they know.
Yeah.
And he said, not only that, we're going to sort the money out for you and I'm going to be your first customer.
Wow.
How about that?
I need to figure this out because normally when I'm tracing people's stories, I'm able to find a link with how they're able to, like, because your mentality was just so, like, you can't, is defiant. Do you get what I'm saying? Was there kind of like inspiration, entrepreneurial inspiration, other than your friend, that was like, who walks into a bank, then walks into the next one and says, okay, I'm going to just, can you think back now? Do you know why you did that?
I'm not sure. I think everyone has, well, maybe they don't have the same feelings. Maybe some feel rejection worse. I'm not sure. But I think we all feel the rejection. Or the put down, but some of us can go, nah, put that at one side, let's go on again. You know, he didn't see something I know that's there, let's go and show it to someone else. And I think that's sometimes the way. It's just a different direction to look at things.
Have you always, looking back through your life and now, have you always been like that, been able to put, because I think it's important to be able to put your emotion aside and just move with your logic and self-belief? Like, if there was anything that kind of was the catalyst for that, it'd be great to know. Or
well, I think it's all about, you know, you're going to have some failings along the way. If you don't fail, you haven't tried. I mean, that's absolute law without a doubt. But the thing with failing is learn the lesson from it and then move on.
It moving,
put it in the past. That's gone. What can you do about that? Nothing. You can learn from it, but you can't do anything else about it. So that's what I've always tried to practice. Learn from the mistakes, then dump it and then move on.
Keep it moving.
Yeah.
So now you've moved past your mistakes of telling someone else your business. They've taken it. Model World officially opens.
Yeah.
So tell me, what was the first day like? Because this must have been a dream come true, right?
Well, it is and it isn't. You know, you arrive on the first day, and the problem with opening a shop is obviously you've got costs straight away.
Overheads,
it's not like building a little business and gradually building it up to those overheads. You've got them from day one. I arrived in my car on the first day. I put my sleeping bag on the back seat, literally, because if I couldn't take some money that day, I was sleeping in that car because I didn't have enough money to put any more petrol in.
To get back,
I put everything into this, you know, absolutely everything was on the line. But as it turned out, we had a fabulous day, and I was there on that day with the guy that sold it to me because he was stock taking and everything.
Yeah.
And he went, blimey, you've had a good day. And I went, yeah, that's obviously a flash in the pan, isn't it?
Yeah.
He went, yeah, definitely. And to this day, in a shop, we have never taken less than that day. Not one day. Seriously. You know, and that's amazing, really. You know, because you think, well, I always think with a shop, people have to make the decision to come to it, have to travel,
how do you promote it? Like,
and how, you know, one day, someone might not decide to come to your shop. So there should be a day where you do nothing. But we've never, ever done that. Every single day we have opened, we've always taken more than that first day. And that was a good day.
Oh,
how about that?
That's amazing. How did you promote it then to get people to come?
Well, there was all sorts of promotion. I mean, obviously the fact that I've been doing lots of helicopter lessons, working in another shop, you know, of course I happen to mention that I'm going to be at a different place very, very soon. And of course, that's why you keep all that stuff going, isn't
The
it? 'Cause
network, yes.
all the networks, all the connections, and then a lot of people wanted to come to us because I was very much into the radar control helicopters, and they knew that, so they wanted me to do their machine, me to sell them the machine.
Yes.
Well, that was the thing, yeah. And then I went into competing with model helicopters, sort of in the UK to start with, and then around the world, and of course you get a name for that. And
Oh, so you was a bit of a celebrity then?
Yeah,
in that world,
I always wish that TikTok and Facebook and all those sort of things were available then, because the following from Japan, for example, was absolutely huge. And of course, that sort of disappears a little bit. The business connections stay, but lots of little bits disappear.
Yeah, because people grow up and they connect. Relationships.
And back then, it was great. We could have had such a following and just kept it flowing along.
So you were technically running a business, but you were also the biggest endorsement for your business because
pretty much
you had the skills. So when you're talking about flying around the world, so you was competing?
Yeah, with the British team. I was on the British team for 10 years. 7 times national champion.
Shit, seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Bronze medal at Europeans and a bronze medal at World Championships. So it's
serious?
Yeah, we've done a bit.
Oh, right, so you've paid your dues, man. So
I'm
understanding now. First of all, the success of Model World is not an accidental success because you've built the foundation. You spent years becoming an expert, building the network. But on top of it as well, you're an athlete essentially. You know what I mean? You compete,
Exactly.
So you kind of apply that athlete mentality to everything you do, like build, work hard, and I'm sure. I've never seen a competition, but I'm sure it's quite high, quite intense, right? A lot of pressure to deal with.
Very hard. In fact, the World Championships that we came, I got bronze medal at. That was during the 9/11 disaster.
Seriously?
Yeah. So I flew my best flight I'd ever flown at a World Champs during that day, and then we all went onto lockdown on the site.
Whoa,
so how about that? In America, when that all happened, it's quite a crazy day. That
I got goosebumps, bro. That's an experience, man.
Yeah.
Oh shit. So when you were competing, you were still running the business and working all these jobs as well.
No, the jobs gradually dropped away because it wasn't possible for me to teach eventually because I needed to be flying. And what I used to do for my practice, I would fly first thing in the morning. So as soon as it was light, I was out flying. I'd have 6 flights, 5 days a week. That would be my practice routine. And in the evenings, I'll be tinkering with the models to keep them all spot up.
Yeah. So you really made a business out of your passion. Like you saw what your passion was, your life, and you modeled the business out. So you was going to be successful. I think it's important for people watching to know that, like, you can monetize anything essentially if you're passionate enough about it.
Yeah, it's not just passion. You've got to separate the passion from the business. Otherwise, the business will either suffer or the passion will suffer.
Yeah, we'll talk.
I mean, if you look at them being exactly the same, then I'd be sick and tired of models by now, wouldn't I? Which I don't want to be because it is a passion. I mean, I'm racing model aeroplanes this weekend.
Oh,
so,
okay. So you're still out here.
Oh, I'm still at it. That's for sure. So it's all good fun things, isn't it? You've got to have your enjoyment. You've got to have your social side, and that's all part of it.
Dope. So if we continue with the story, so I'm understanding now. I'm getting a shape and picture of why Model World, like you said, it hasn't had the lower day than when you started.
Yeah.
So essentially, your business is a success. What's your next step from there then?
Well,
Did you see it as a success?
Well, I suppose so. I mean, I suppose as an entrepreneur, you just see that that's what it's going to do, and it does it.
Yeah.
Rather than going, I'm successful now. I don't think at any stage you put the flag up to do that if you're a true entrepreneur. But the next stage was obviously employing my dad, and we opened up Ashford, and then I took a partner and opened up in Sevenoaks. But then, of course, bam, come along the internet and really bricks and brick shops weren't the way to be from that point on. I think nowadays you need one shop and a very good internet access and lots of lots of different sources of income. So that changed after that time. Otherwise, we would have probably franchised Model World or pushed forward to Model
make
World
like Toys R Us or something and make
across the country.
So how many employees did you have at this time then? Because it seemed like you've grown.
I think we've got 12 employees at the moment. More than that if you include, I have a couple of agents in China that help me out, and obviously the factories in China that we use. Obviously they're not employees of mine, but they're factory time that we buy to produce our products. So it's hard to gauge a business just on the number of employees nowadays. You used to be able to say, oh, you've got 10, oh, that'd be 3 there, 2 there, 1 there. Really, all of those are part of our team. Whoever's sourcing.
So when the internet came, did Century UK come into the picture? Century, Century UK come into the picture before or after the internet?
Probably before, because when I first
Yeah, do you want to talk about that? I don't want to skip that part. 'Cause
that's
I think it's
another
important.
story, isn't
Yeah,
it?
no, I think that's an important part. Like,
I mean, basically, I was selling lots of one particular helicopter, and this guy in the States made a hop up for it, a totally different chassis, which made a lot of sense. So you could put new sides on this helicopter, made it fly much better. And I thought, you know what, I need that. So I said to the wife or girlfriend at the time, I said, fancy going to LA? She said, oh yeah, when are we going to do that next year? I said, no, I thought we'd go Saturday. So we jumped on a plane and sort of had a bit of a holiday going up Highway 1, seeing all the sights. And this was way back in the day. In fact, I forgot to take my driving licence with me as well.
Yeah.
So I ended up at dodgy car dealers and a real dodgy Dodge Dynasty as it happened. We drove up the coast, knocked on his door when I got there. I said, oh, I'm just sort of passing by. I thought I'd pop in. He said, well, that's a long road trip, isn't it, from the UK? And we hit it off, and at the end of that trip I had a deal to bring in these models and these accessories, and that was called Century USA.
Century, yeah.
So that's why the term Century UK came about. Although we're totally separate companies, that's why we're called Century UK.
You was licensing the brand, or
we were buying the product from him, and originally we were only selling Century products from the USA, but that was getting a bit restrictive.
Yeah, I can imagine. So how does a negotiation like that work? Did you have to show him how much you're selling? Because I think a lot of people might want to engage in a similar relationship. How does that negotiation work? Did you have experience in doing it? Or?
No, that was my first experience of buying from abroad. And yes, he wanted me to guarantee him certain figures. But to be honest, no one can guarantee certain figures. And I was just honest and straight with him. I said, look, you know, if we import X number of these on the first order, I'm pretty much guaranteed I'm going to sell those, and then it'll be from the next order we really know what the numbers are. And the first order came in, it was all sold before it arrived. Well, all bar one, I think it was. And then the second order rolled in, which was twice as many, and that sold well because it coincided with a trade fair we were at, and we got billed on the front cover of the trade fair. So of course people went, oh, that's new, and they all flocked to our stand to buy the new product, which was great. So that's how it's done. I mean, most times you don't have to buy as much or commit to as much as you think you'll have to.
Yeah.
With most of these guys, well, most people, when I started going to China, it was you've got to buy a container. You know, it's got to be a container full of this, a container full of that, and so on. They realise that's now not the real world. So you can really reduce those numbers. You can start filling containers from different people. So it's not anywhere near as hard as it was. And with the internet and email, it's a lot easier to get these connections and talk to these people. A lot easier than when I started.
Before, you have to drive all the way here. So I was going to ask this quickly. So tell me about radio controlled models a bit. So do you sell these at like high prices? Like, what's the average price of like a helicopter?
Well, most model aeroplanes and helicopters, people think they're dearer than what they are.
Yeah, because I've never.
Yeah, the most popular design that I sell is a model called a Max Thrust Riot. I designed it in geography at school when I was about 15 years old. You designed them as well? Yeah, I designed them.
You didn't say this, bro. You just made this. You designed them as well.
You gradually pull it all out. But I actually designed that when I was 15 in a geography lesson. I can actually remember the lesson where I penned this outline of this model, never knowing that I was going to then
be selling it.
Exactly.
Wow.
So someone said, look, if you want to manufacture, you've got to get out to China. That's the place to manufacture. So I thought, you know, I'll jump on a plane and go to China. And a friend of mine over here wrote a note for me, all in Chinese. He said, and then put on the top, this is for the taxi man at the airport. And then there was another one. He said, that's to get you to the trade fair you want to go to.
All in the characters,
I didn't know what it said. So I handed it to him. I didn't know where I was going to end up. I ended up at the right hotel. And then in the morning, I handed it to him. Ended up at the trade fair. And as soon as you start meeting people and pressing the flesh, as it were, you know, that is the best way to get loyalty.
What do you mean pressing the flesh?
Well, just meeting them, shaking hands, getting to know them. That's where the loyalty's built up.
Okay, then.
If you're buying purely online, you can't be surprised to find out that 2, 3, 10, 100 other people are selling the same product as you. If you want to get yourself an exclusive deal and get some loyalty from these factories, then you've really got to get out there and meet the people and get a social connection with them.
Okay, and I think that's important even more so in this day and age, because we're under the impression that everything can be done via the internet. You know what I mean? Kind of like email.
Yeah, a
So
lot can, but you're not going to get that loyalty.
that same kind of, yeah.
So the first guy I met out there, he invited me to his factory. So the next time I went straight to his factory, which was in Shenzhen. And we've been mates ever since. Now he's no longer owns that business. And when I go to China on a business trip, I have to make time to go and see him.
Yeah.
We'll have a nice dinner and chat about old times. And I've got about 3 or 4 friends like that now that are no longer necessarily in the trade, but I go and see them. So I've got a social network in China, which is great, because China's quite a draining place to do business.
Really?
And when you've got a social network, you can fall back on those like you do at home. You fall back and rely on your wife and your friends and everyone else. In China, that's very hard unless you've got that. And now it's quite nice, because when you go 3 days I'm going to go and see so and so, 4 days I'm going to go and see David or whatever. It's very good.
So it seems like you're quite adept at making like relationships with the people you work with, like and that's kind of like that's I guess you've always been networking in business from when you was helping people with their planes and then turning them into customers. So you get to the internet comes out, takes a blow to your business. You're looking at the world like the world has changed. Was there ever a moment when the light bulb hit where it was like, okay, I have to adjust now, or did it just happen naturally?
2010 was a big game changer. We'd had the recession, and in 2010 we'd made the decision that really Ashford was finished, because my dad wanted to retire anyway, and we thought, well, that's a good end there. And I didn't trust the people in the shopping centre.
Not more than your dad, obviously.
And I thought, no, let's let that go. And the guy who I partnered with in Sevenoaks, he decided he'd like to buy me out, and I thought, yeah, I'll go with that. So he bought me out, ran it for 6 years, and unfortunately it wasn't successful for him. I helped him relocate and do all sorts, but it wasn't successful, and he ended up coming back and helping me, and he was doing all my service repairs and stuff, which was quite nice. But that was the point where we realised that it won't work as a multi-shop, but if we pull it back to one, then we looked at the cost of the one and went, the costs here are too dear, this is going to cripple us. So we moved to another location, which is hard to do, because all your customers know where you are. And to move to another town, what's going to happen here? But actually it's the best thing we did, and then we started pushing forward on the web. So
then customers started buying online.
Yeah, I'd say 7 years ago was when our web sales started building from, and that's when we moved the business, because we knew it was going to be more bricks and clicks from that point on.
So the internet, that was early days. You were talking about how were you selling via the internet? Like, was it just like Amazon, or Amazon not at the time, eBay, right? You were saying?
Well, eBay's always been good for us, because that's where the model fraternities seem to do their shopping. Amazon doesn't really work very well for us. We've tried it. Actually, we tried it on 2 occasions. We've also tried it, and they've looked at our product and gone and found other products. So we knew that was going to be an issue. So at least with eBay, we retain all the customer information, and the information is key. If you're doing a good job for your customer, you want their information, because you can do another good job for them. So data is everything. And obviously the web sales, we have a website that sells directly as well, and between all of those, that works really very well.
I love the way like you have such a control over every element of your business in terms of, so do you have the intellectual patent rights and stuff for all these helicopters that you make?
Well, the helicopter is not such a big thing now, funnily enough, although it's my history. The aircraft side of things is definitely the big thing for us. We sell a lot of aircraft, and yes, we own the design rights to those aircraft and the tooling as well. One of my first errors was that we didn't pay for the tooling, and I lost one of my best designs through the fact that we didn't own the tool, and the company went pop, and they sold off the tools, and I didn't get a chance to be able to buy it. But from that day on, we made sure we bought the tool in as we went.
So now I see how the business has such value, because you don't just sell the products, you make them and you own the rights to them.
That's it. And also we can license the product as well. So just recently we've sold 500 of the riots to a company in the States. They haven't called it that, but it's our model, and we get basically a royalty payment on it, because I don't have to do anything. It's like a passive income, if you like, because all of the production's done through one factory. They have to use my tool. I'm notified if the tool's used and for how many shoots of foam go through it, so I know if they're telling me what they should or not.
Doesn't it blow your mind to sit back and think about all these designs you were tinkering with and like drawing in school have now become like properties that like go out into the world and create business with people.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the pleasure I get if I go and visit a flying club and there's some of my designs there, and sometimes more than 50% of the model aircraft there are sort of come from my pen. Oh, of course, I'm as pleased as punch. I mean, it's great, isn't it? And then you see in the model press, some youngsters pass their flying proficiency, and he's holding his model there. Guess what? It's one of mine. I mean, how nice is that? I mean, this is the joy of enjoying what you do, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you keep getting buzzes like that, and it's a bit like what we're doing now with the YouTube and the TikTok, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great feedback. It's fantastic.
Let's talk about the TikTok. This is what, before we wrap up, let's go into the TikTok. Where does the TikTok come from? What was the inspiration? You know what I mean? Tell me about the TikTok journey.
Well, sort of the inspiration is my son's a videographer and he enjoys doing that, and we needed something so we can work together. And generally on skiing trips, funnily enough, we sit around the table and we're in chalets, so lots of new people, and the conversation keeps sort of going towards business and investments and this sort of thing, and everyone's listening, and I don't notice, you just talk, and Curtis, my son, said to me, he said, look, people are interested in what you've got to say, the experiences you've had. It's not normal, these are, you've had a great life, you've amassed all this information. We could share with the many rather than with the few. So we looked at the different platforms, and YouTube was what my son was, good at, and he enjoyed doing, and I liked it. I've been in a few of his videos as well. We got more followers than him now, so that's great. So
you won that one.
Yeah, we thought we'd give it a go, especially during lockdown. The TikTok was sort of my idea. I'd heard about it and looked, and I thought, that could work. All this swiping, and suddenly an old guy, you think, well, what's he doing?
That was my
and that's quite a good thing, isn't it? People do stop at it and they go, oh, there's some interest there, and we try and give good content on everything that we do, so there's a little life lesson hopefully in everything, but we can do a lot more on YouTube. So YouTube goes much more in depth to try and change that mindset, and tell youngsters, you can be well off. The opportunities are there, and generally it's just a case of taking that opportunity rather than moaning about the opportunity you aren't getting. It's get out there and do it.
No, I love it, man. Thank God for Curtis, because honestly, I do feel like you undersell yourself, because when I'm talking to you and you're telling me about, like, you're an entrepreneur, you're a businessman, you're a negotiator, but you also were creative, you know what I mean? And you're a teacher. There's so many elements that, no, there's a lot. I'm looking, because as we're having a conversation, I'm kind of picking apart more of your experience and seeing like the kind of level of what you've actually created. No, so now that you're on TikTok, you're getting lots of people kind of engaging with you. Did the coaching element start after or before the TikTok, or was it something you always wanted to do?
I would say it's something I've always wanted to do, but I enjoy it now. It's another string to the bow, isn't it, if you like? And it's just the feedback that I enjoy. When you get someone telling you've changed their life, and you think, well, you only asked me a couple of questions, but the reality is most people don't need to be told what to do. They don't need to be told. They've got a good idea of what they want to do and how they want to do it. And generally it's just a little gentle nudge in the right direction. And if you help make that nudge, that's the difference you make, isn't it? And you do make a step difference to their lives.
That's like in your own experience.
Exactly. And that my mentor didn't charge me. So why should I? If I can pass that on and people can learn and develop and improve their wealth, or their life, they might want to go into business, they might just want to be a little bit better off by starting a side hustle to create a little bit more income so they can invest. That's what it's all about. It's no good moaning and saying, oh, I only get paid enough to live. Well, you may do, but you have got hours in which you could actually create something else, particularly a passive income, because that's all about time. So if you've got spare time, create something, let that passive income in and invest that. And then you're always going to have some money behind you.
Yeah, it's true. I love one thing you said about investments when you were talking about when you invest the money, you haven't lost it. You just put it into another place where you can get the money back later.
Exactly. I think of it as spending and going down the shop, but you haven't spent it. You get the enjoyment of, yep, there we go. I've spent some money that I've earned. I've earned all this. I've worked really hard. There we are. But you can have it back. It's like buying a house, isn't it? You may part with the money, but it's still there.
Yeah.
When you buy some designer clothing, you go, whoa, don't I look good today? And tomorrow it's like, oh God, I've dropped half my dinner down it. It's not as good as it was, and it cost me best part of £200. What's that all about? I really don't understand that. So.
No, I rate it, man. Is there any kind of other investment tips? Just because we have you here and I have to take some coaching advice, is there anything you'd recommend people investing in, or any investments outside of your business that you've been making that are kind of highly recommended right now?
Well, the best thing, first of all, is to invest in yourself. You know,
Real
if you don't invest in yourself, then you're making a bit of a mistake. You need to, first of all, invest in yourself. You know, maybe increase your skills. You know, find something that you're good at, and then you can create wealth from that. Once you've created a bit of wealth and you've put a little bit aside for yourself, you know, in an emergency fund, then it doesn't matter. If you want to take a risk on investing in stocks, you can do that. If you want to do a long-term sort of investment with someone like Vanguard, that's fantastic, because you can just do a regular amount every month.
What's Vanguard for people that are listening?
Vanguard basically do lots of different lifestyle investments that you can do. They've actually just started advertising on British television.
Oh, wow.
I saw an advert last night for them. I don't get paid. It's just someone I use, and I find them very, very easy. So you can find an investment that suits you. Now, for me, I like index funds, because they take lots of companies, and then you're a shareholder or a stakeholder in those companies, all of them. So if one goes down, it doesn't matter, you support it. If one goes up, you're not going to go up quite as quick as that, but you know, your overall investment is going to be relatively safe. And although on Vanguard it will say quite a high risk on some of them, like a 6, you know, it's not really super high risk. It's not like putting all your money into one company you think is going to go mental and then it flops. That's high risk. You know, this is quite a safe way of saving, and if you do it regularly and consistently, you don't even miss the money. It becomes habit, doesn't it? You know, if you're putting £100 away a month or £50 away a month, whatever it happens to be, you get used to that. And also lifestyle inflation. Just because you're earning more doesn't mean you've got to spend more. If you could live easily off £20,000 a year and you're now getting £50,000, well, elevate a little bit if you want. Elevate to 25, it's quite a big jump. Elevate to 30, that's a massive jump. But you've got 20 grand that could be working for you, and then when it's working for you, that's a passive income. And it's fantastic, isn't it? You know, so lifestyle inflation is quite a hard thing to get through to people.
I totally agree, because you buy it according to how you're growing. You know, and you start to tell yourself you need certain things. You know, I've always had this conversation with my wife, because we were living near Marks and Spencer, and we started shopping at Marks and Spencer, and I was like, I've shopped at Sainsbury's my whole life. Why do we need to buy at Marks and Spencer now? Because we live near it, you know. So I definitely think that's important. Speaking of family, what is it like essentially having a family business with your son? I feel like as a father,
fantastic. Fantastic. You can't beat it. We have some brilliant arguments, but we may develop a podcast as well before long, because we have some very different views, and I think the arguments that we get into sometimes would be, you know, great podcast material.
I love it. Generational kind of like perspective.
You know, like, I know because I've been around. I know because I'm the youth. You know, so there's some really good arguments to be had.
Kind of like the characters on your TikTok in a way, isn't it?
And it's a lot of fun. You know, it's really, really good. And of course, because my son wasn't interested in the RC radio control stuff, I thought, well, I'm not going to be working with my son. I'm not going to pass my business on. I'm not going to pass any of that information on. And this is the perfect vehicle for us to share. And it's proved very, very good.
No, I love it, man. Thank you very much, Mark. Because it's 7 figures, before we end, we have to ask you the 7-figure question. How did it feel when you saw your first 7 figures?
Well, I can't actually remember seeing them because it would have been a multitude of investments, house properties, business, estimated worth, and so on and so forth. All I can say is once you get to 7 figures, you've bought yourself freedom. And once you've got that freedom to do what you want pretty much when you want, then that is a really, really good feeling. You know, you're no longer selling your time 5 days a week just to recover 2 days, you know, for yourself. And most people don't even get that now. Most people are doing 6 days a week, only getting a Sunday for recovery, and then having to go back to work. And I think that freedom and free spirit that's in everyone, if you can release that, that's the point, you know, 7 figures, or maybe less, or maybe more, has made it for you.
Thank you very much for your time, Mark. Guys, so if anyone wants to find out more information about Mark, you can check him out on YouTube and TikTok, Mark Tilbury. Is it TikTok? Is it Mark Tilbury on
Just
TikTok
Mark
as well?
Tilbury, yep, straight in there.
I definitely recommend the videos. Like, it caught my attention and there's a lot of value to be gained, so don't sleep and check that out. If you want to watch more episodes of 7 Figures, check out our YouTube channel, 7 Figures Podcast. And if you're on the go and you don't have time to sit down and watch it, you can also listen to it on on Apple, Spotify, and other streaming networks. 7 Figures Business Podcast.